Just to start off, sometimes I get there we go. I said over last week this idea of when he's supposed to light on Matzechan on Friday night. Okay, this is a different one. The Chassam Sofer says actually the exact same thing as I said over the Berurah last week. There's a special time on Friday night to light, and that's what you could say when it's first night of Hanukkah is even on Shabbos. So you could say Shachianu even though it's before the time of Nukas Neris. All right, the subject we're going to learn today is the subject of Achsenoi, and this subject is really, I would like to share with you a question that was asked this week, and I was stumped. When I said I was stumped, it means I didn't have the information, so I wasn't sure exactly how to deal with the question exactly. There are people who live in Israel that have this thing called Avas Haaretz. I don't know exactly how you call it. And they're like, I don't know, where I come from in America, even patriots aren't interested in trekking up the whole United States. They're not really into doing the Grand Canyon. You know, that's just, you know, it's really a beautiful place. They're not like into it. But Israelis are very into Haaretz. You know, just I don't know exactly how to describe it. But I'm sure you all have bumped into it. And I got the following question. There was some 21-year-old guy that's doing Shvil Haaretz. Okay, Shvil Haaretz is for people who have a overabundance of this tchuna. Now, when I got the question, I asked him the first thing that was important to me to know: does he have two sticks? You know, avada. And I was like, you know, like an insulting question that I asked. You know, we do this right. Anyways, this guy is doing Shvil Haaretz, and he wants to know where to light Hanukkah candles. Okay, Yechiel, how can you never had that question? So I'll just tell you part of the way the conversation went. I said, you're doing this with your parents' permission? Trying to ascertain if he's Seimach al Shulchan Aruch or Seiser Shulchan Aruch. I'm not sure exactly.
What 21?
21. All right, there are many 21-year-old people that are Seimach al Shulchan Aruch, right? Right? Not only that, I'm willing to say that most of the people who do Shvil Haaretz are supported by other people. Because do you have 3 months spare time to walk from one end of the country to the other? I would just say, what? 3 months. Yeah, that's what I was told. I'll just tell you to how serious an issue this is. I used to do with my sons, once a year we would do a tiyul retzach. That's what we used to call it. Like a 6-8 hour tiyul in the Negev. You know, one of these things that you wonder, why did I get myself into this? And on one of these trips, we didn't see anybody, no human beings for the whole 8 hour, except for 2 guys who were doing Shvil Haaretz. And the question which I asked them, which to me was an obvious question, they were a little bit shocked at the question: where do you get water from? I mean, we're in the desert, right? So, okay, I'm coming from home in my car, and I brought with me thousands of gallons of water, which were all finished by the time the day was over. And these guys are just going with their knapsacks for I don't know how many days. I said, so where do you get water from? So they looked at me with disdain, like, you know, where do you think we are? We came here before and buried water. And we have maps of where we buried it. This is called Messias Nefesh. This is not like, what? Yeah, no, I'm saying this is like, let's wing it. No. This is, for real. Okay? Now, actually, the guy that I had to deal with this week, I asked, does he have a cell phone? So I said, yes. So I said, how do you charge it?
It's solar charger.
That's, you have the answers. I ask the questions. So I said, well, he has one emergency battery pack, but he doesn't use his cell phone. He's a Shvil Aretz guy. What do I need a cell phone for? To talk to people? That's like a steer to the whole concept. You understand? Anyways, he said he charges it, when it comes for Shabbos. That's it. Anyways.
Raglan did it in 40 days, but it's taking
good question. I can't answer that question. I don't think that they did everything, if you really want to know the truth. Anyways, but lo mishana. Anyway, so he wanted to know where to lie. So I said, I don't know. So why don't I know? I say he sleeps in a tent. The tent isn't even 10 tefachim tall. Is that correct? That's correct. I said, as far as I know, there's no passerbyers where you're going, right? You also don't want to light inside your tent because you want to have one tomorrow night, right? You know that? Says, yeah, all this is true. So the question was, does he have a chiyuv on Luchas Neres Chanukah or not? Okay, this is a real question. Tavshin Pei Aleph, Tavshin Pei Beis. Excuse me. That's his question. And I said, maybe he's called the Semach HaShulchan Aruch, and he could be able to with his parents. Maybe. Not really sure about his situation, exactly what the story is, that issue, but I think that's about the best we can do. As far as lighting himself, possibly he could light. I don't believe, this whole thing is ridiculous because I can tell him to light. He doesn't want to light inside his tent because he's afraid of fire. He doesn't want to light outside his tent. I don't believe he carried in that roll one of those boxes. For some reason it doesn't seem to be that way. I can't really trust the guy that knows to find rocks. It's just not going to happen. I said that anyways. It's not clear that if a person has a house that's not Dalet al Dalet, that's not 10 tefachim tall, that it's called a house. So he's what they call in Hebrew, it starts with a homeless. Homeless. That's how it's called in Hebrew, right? So he's a homeless. And could be a spotter. So there's actually a question whether he has a chiyuv to go and get a house or not get a house. We're going to touch on that issue today. So I'm just sharing with you this question. People ask me what kind of questions people ask. It's just no. These are the kind that people ask.
Does he have a chiyuv to light, so he has to do.
First, you have to have a place. No. You have to have a Ner Chanukah. A Ner Chanukah. We're back to the Lubavitch question over here, right? Just because somebody lit a Ner Chanukah doesn't mean you're Yaitza. It has to be halachically sanctioned that it's a Ner Chanukah. We're not Yaitza with a Ner Chanukah that's lit in the shul. You're not Yaitza.
Not presuming he's either.
The pashtus, not. Anything without a bracha, at least according to some achayim, you're not going to be Yaitza. Not only that, according to some people, you can't even make a birchas haroya after a half hour. But there's a whole bunch. There's a lot to this. We're going to touch on a little bit of that tonight. But that's not the. This is the question. So the mitzvah of Ner Chanukah really has two parts to it. A person is obligated to light Ner Chanukah, and it's a chiyuv on the bias for it to be lit. What is the difference between the two things? So I'm going to start with, maybe so we'll get to at the end of the shiur to understand this. If there is a candle lit in the house and it wasn't done b'shlichusi, could be am yaitz. How is that? We're going to see there's a machlokes on this issue. Let's say a cotton lit. So a cotton can't be mitzi gadol. But a cotton lives there. A cotton's a person too. And the house has a ner. So you could be yaitza without shlichus. You don't need shlichus. That's like saying, I moved into the house and there's a mezuzah there. Am I yaitza mezuzah? Am I yaitza? I haven't. I didn't do it. I don't know if I get schar for, exactly how, I didn't work very hard to have it, but I'm yaitza. It's neskayim by me mezuzah, right? Let's have a Bidyuk. But over here, it's both. That's the answer to the question. It's Gabra and Chavza. You need to have both. A house without a person is not obligated, and a person without a house is not obligated. But a person, and this is the issue, the person without a house still has a chiyuv, but not to light, but to say the brachas. That's the subject we're learning about tonight, because he doesn't have where to express his obligation. His obligation he has is just the oinus. I don't have a house, so I can't light. But he's mechoyev to light. Are you people with me on the concept?
Would this apply to those poor people you see, unfortunately, sleeping out in the streets? If one of them was mentally able to light the Hanukkah candles and was observant, they'd be in that situation, wouldn't they? They'd have the fear.
100%.
But they would not have nowhere to light.
That's 100%.
They'd also have to so many news to sleep, because these people sleep out in the streets where a lot of people go past.
That's true. This is true, but they don't have a house.
Right.
They don't have a house. You have to have a house. I just tell you, I was asked a question. This again, ask every Hanukkah the same question. Always comes in a different flavor. It's never exactly the same. But somebody who's traveling, somebody's traveling on the first day of Hanukkah, and I have one guy who's leaving London at, I think his flight is at 9:00, and he's leaving his house at 6. I said, so that's no problem. So you can light at Shkia, and you'll be okay. You're not going to leave your house. You can be there for at least an hour after Shkia. I said, that's good enough for me. I don't need longer than that. This guy actually is an Israeli that usually lights at Shkia, so that's good enough for me. I have a guy in America who's going to the airport, and he's not going to be in a house. He's leaving his residence before the Zman Hadlaka. Where does his wife live? So the answer to the question is, what could be the best Jewish answer? This is almost the best Jewish answer. The best Jewish answer is machlokes, right? But the answer is yes and no. Meaning to say, this is what we'll learn about today, is Chiyav Hadlaka she can do for him, but the Birchas Haroya she can't do for him. I had, what?
Myself.
She could do for herself. Yeah. What about him? I'm going to say this over. I want to farce him something. I live in Eretz Yisrael, and it's a wonderful source to be here. That we sometimes have opportunities here that don't exist in Chutz La'aretz, at least where I know of. Somebody from here in Ramat Beit Shemesh called me up. They had a Ezeshu Irua Batzafon at 8:30, that they had to be there at 8:30, and they wanted to know about what to do for lighting Hanukkah candles. So I said, you have a cell phone? Call me when it gets a half hour before Shkia. So what are you going to tell me? I said, you have your wife light on time here, and you're yaitz with that. But you have a problem. You have to get a Birchas Haraya. You call me a half hour before Shkia. I'll find somebody that I know, or somebody that I know that knows somebody along the way, and have you be a guest for somebody's hadlaka to hear the brachas. Got that? You can't do this in Chutz La'aretz, can you? At least nowhere is that I know of could you do this. If you're in a place that has so many Jews, you probably don't know anybody there. Whatever. But this is what he said. It was either going to be in Tveria or he's going to be in Katzrin. I had a guy lined up for him a few places along the way to work it out. It's like a beautiful thing that you can do in Eretz Yisrael. You can't do this. I mean, theoretically, maybe you can do it in Chutz La'aretz, but I don't think that it's just not going to happen. That's not going to happen. So here you have a split. You understand? Who is he like the Yaitz Hadlakas Neiros with? His wife. And his Birchas Haroya he had by somebody else's house. Why can't he make his own Birchas Haroya? Mitzvah Shem, we're going to learn that tonight. Why he can't make his own Birchas Haroya.
Writing. We have a homeless person. Can I be Mizaka him for a week in a portion of my house and then light from there?
I would like to tell you the following story that happened. I have a friend, a very close friend, he happens to also be a cousin of mine, who is a very big Baal Chesed. And he made in his apartment a yechida. I don't know how you say that in English. He made a yechida. And the yechida was all ready, just he didn't have tenants were only coming in a week. And somebody needed a place to stay for a couple of days. But he didn't put mezuzahs up yet. He didn't have mezuzahs. So he asked me, this was about 10 years ago, he asked me, can the guy stay there without any mezuzahs? I said, I think so. He said, what? So I said, why not? Is he a renter? Is he borrowing it? Does he have any kinyanim on it? He's a freeloader. Let's say it in English, right? I don't know how they say, some nice way to say that in South Africa. Do they have some way to say that in South Africa? But they, you know what that means, right? How do they say that in English?
I'm not really completely sure what the word means. I'm not familiar with it.
What it means is, parents, you want to help me out?
Doing him a favor is not really playing for free.
He's staying for free. You know, it's when I have a guy comes into my house and he stays in my house for Shabbos, is he a shoyel at my house?
A guest. We'd say just a guest. A guest.
He's a guest, but he's a guest in my house. That means that I live there, right?
Yes.
Okay, but what if I have an empty apartment? What is he?
I think we'd also still call him a guest.
Of who?
Guest of the owner of the apartment.
He's not a guest of mine.
Oh, it's not.
Well, I mean, yes, he's staying there because I allowed him to stay there. So that's what the word guest means. But the concept of a guest means that I'm there like Avraham Avinu, right? That I'm serving the guy. I have no connection with the guy, right?
I suppose you don't do those kind of things in England so much. So there's no word for it.
With South Africa, maybe they do, if you're white. But anyways, no, I'm just saying that this is a concept. So I said to him, I don't think he's not a shoyel, he's not a seicher, and you don't live there. So who's chayv mezuzah? So he said, really? I said, I think so. And that's the way it stayed. Recently, I saw somebody write in the Sefer that they asked this question to Rav Shlomo Zalman. Rav Shlomo Zalman said, like me, there's such a thing. Okay? So now when you said to me, you want to just tell me, you want to fill me in? What is it? What's your guy?
Yeah. Absent someone or part of the house.
Where's he living?
Berurah?
So no, it's not a question because you own 20 houses. That doesn't make you. It has to be a place where you're living there. It's the door.
You have 20 houses. You have to light all 20 houses. The Maritime.
1 second. If I have 20 houses and I don't live in them, I don't have to light them. There's no Marasayan. There's no Marasayan.
Why?
Just people will see you living, then you don't
How
know.
do you know if you're there or not?
Because they don't see you.
I'm not living there. What do you mean?
They
There's
see you're
no.
not there.
The only time that there's such a halacha of chshad is in a place where a person's living. I possibly have that question because I know one of the machlokes I have with my family is where I live. They say I live in Beit Shemesh, and I say I live in Yerushalayim. So I'm not sure where do I live? Where I live in Yerushalayim. Yeah. What do I have here?
Shabbos house.
Shabbos house. I use that house as meetings in there. It's used during the week. I was here today for an hour. Right? I don't not live there, but it's not my primary residence. Right? So possibly I have a chshad question. Possibly. But the average person, he has one house, he lives in one. The guy who has a house upstate in the mountains, what's the chshad? It's not just because you own something, that's not machayev you. It has to be that you live there. Okay? So your guy just owning it, that's not going to do it. It has to be that he uses it. And if he's using it, you don't have to be marking it to him. Maybe it'll be achsanoi.
He has to be using it when? Time when he's lighting it? So the person who's traveling, someone else at home to light for him.
Correct.
He's not using the house then.
but it's his house. That's still where
So
he
now
lives.
this is, I'm
No,
Mizaka him.
I don't know. That is where he lives. I'll tell you, when you ask a bocher in yeshiva, where does he live? What does he say? Parents house. So why aren't you there? Because I'm in yeshiva. Just like, where do you live right now?
Baltimore, why didn't you?
Where do you live right now? No. I'm sure.
Or do I
You're here.
Where am I presently located?
So you mean living doesn't have to do with location. That means your home base. Where is your home base? No, I'm saying so this is a question. What's your home base?
So in the Baltimore state, and they light in yeshiva.
So there are things that you could do that be enough that you could actually theoretically light in two places. You could have two homes. A bocher can light where he's physically sleeping, and he can also light. He goes with his parents where he lives. That's it. All Sfardim do. No Sfardi bocher lights. Can't say no, but most Sfardi bocher don't light. They yetsa with their parents because they live at home. They're part of the Bnei Bayis, which is fine. But it's your guy.
You're not starting with light if they were at home either.
That's true. But even though they're not at home, that's still called their home. That's what I'm telling you.
They don't like in yeshiva.
They don't like yeshiva because they live at home, even though they're not home. It's Ashkenazim, you could light where you live, living presently, even though it's not your home. All right. Anyways, let's start the simon. We'll see. This is a complicated. This introduction. What? Tough Resh Ayin Zion.
Regarding the actual brachas, the Hasidic people have that minhag.
What do you know about them?
No, they want to go and hear the bracha from the Rebbe. Is that because they want to be saying the bracha from him?
Chas v'shalom.
No.
Chas v'shalom. They want to be part of his lighting. They already lit it all at home.
Yes.
Just like when they come to the tish, they already ate it all.
It's just like a spectacle, in other words, something to see.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I can't even talk to you until you go to the mikveh. Yeah, that's it. But the concept of being present in the sphere when something great is happening makes you a part of it. And when your Rebbe does something, so in a sense, you are included in that happening, not in a technical sense, but a spiritual sense. And the more that you're there, the more you have.
So if a member of our Shalom happens to be in the area where the Rab lives in Jerusalem, then he could come to the Rab's house. They're kind of colliding also.
So I didn't say that you could be Yaitzer.
No.
But I would tell you something.
Yeah.
It's a vada. If the person would be able to see an Adam Gadol light Hanukkah candles, that would be a wonderful thing to do.
Yeah.
It's an important spiritual experience to see somebody doing a mitzvah. You become part of that happening.
Which is like a traditional thing. It's not something that's happened in Israel over the past 20 or 30 years.
No. This is 100 years old.
Oh, okay.
This is 100 years. Nothing to do with Israel. This is a Rebbe has the ability, and I'll just share this with you because you're probably not going to hear this elsewhere. The minig is that you don't have the same person be a sandik more than once. What is the reason for that? The reason for that is because it's a shiur for a shiurus, and you want to spread their shiurus around. So the Belzer Rebbe, not today's, the Sar Shalom, if I'm not mistaken, from Belz. So he explained the minig by Chassidim is that the Rebbe always gets sandik. What's the shot? No, Chaim Knesset doesn't always. Whenever he's offered it, he gets it.
Yeah.
But there, all the Chassidim automatic. And he explained, what do you do with the Ramah that says only supposed to do once? So he said, this is very important. This is a major concept in Chassidus. That he is the one, the tzínor, I'm not sure I know exactly how to say that in English, but the conduit. He is the vehicle through which the shafa to all of his kehila gets what they need. So the way to spread it around, the best way is to give it to the Rebbe. No, it's not against the Ramah. It's precisely what the Ramah is saying. The idea is to have the wealth spread around, so you give it to the Rebbe, and that will get spread around more wealth. This is just like Kol Olam Kula Nizam B'Shil Chanina B'Ni. The dialogue of Kav Chorban Me'er Shabbos Erev Shabbos. The Rebbe doesn't need it. He's taking it in order that you should be able to have it. Okay, can we?
Yes, no, answer me clearly.
Okay. Anyways, I expect to be seeing you at the blocker. All right. Anyways, all right. Achsenoi. Achsenoi is a a boarder. A boarder. What is a boarder? How would you define a boarder? Is he a renter? Is he part of the family?
Lodger, say.
That's the same word, just saying it a different word. But what is it?
Yeah.
What is it?
It pays
Someone
to be
pays
part of
to
that.
be
Part of the family.
part of the family. Yeah. No, not necessarily. It has a separate room.
But there's some kind of something mishutaf, right? He's not the guy that has the yechida that's not attached, right? We'll soon see about that kind of achsanoi. But there's an achsanoi is some kind of a semi something. It's not. This is not exactly that. That's at least we're going to start off with that. She'ein madlikin alav b'veisoy, that they're not lighting for him in his house. So if they're not lighting for him in his house, so he's not Yitzhak Eres Chanukah. So he has to light over here. So light over here. But he can't light over here. You know why? Doesn't have a house. It's not his house. So here we have this problem. Now you understand the Akdama that we always time spent over here to get to understand what we're talking about. So he's in a predicament. So what does he do? Sarach Lo says Pruta la Balabayis. He gives some money to the Balabayis. Lishtat efimo b'Hashem and Shomer Chanukah. And then he's yaitza with the adlaka of the Balabayis. Why? Because he's part of that hadlaka. It's not his shliach. He bought in to the hadlaka of the house that he's staying in. Is it clear what I just said? Yechiel, it's good?
He's paying to be there anyway.
But he has to pay special for this.
Why?
Because he's paying the same price, whether it's Tishrei, Cheshvan, Kislev, or Teves.
But how is he considered a ben bias?
This makes him part of the bias.
Paying for the lights?
No, it's part of the bias for the hadlaka, not part of the bias. He's not a greater ben bias as part of the family, if you want to call it that. He's more that this light becomes like it's his candle also.
Should adult children also do that?
Our adult children that live in the house, should they do that? They don't have to do that because they're so much. This is their house. They are not lodgers. They are not freeloaders. Maybe they are freeloaders, but that's a different issue, right?
The border is someone else's today.
Who's shochem?
On the place where he's staying.
Mapitom. He pays.
Right, he's paying, but he's someone else's home.
He's shovach on his own shulchan. That's shovach on their shulchan. Shovach al shulchan means I'm on the dole. The border pays. He's not Saimach. He's the opposite of Saimach. Cool. Now let's see. Says the Mishna Berurah. Okay, this is I apologize for the long Hakdama, but I think that the Hakdama really helps us to understand what's going on over here. Now they didn't have dormitories in those days, so they used to stay at families' houses. They were boarders. We're talking about a bocher that he doesn't eat in the place where he's staying, but he was adopted by the family, so to speak. Then he becomes why? So it's his house.
He's not paying for it?
Whether you pay for it or not is irrelevant.
You just said before, because he pays for it, so he...
Yeah, but no, today the classical achsanoi is somebody who's paying for his board. It's not the money that makes it. His position. That's what I'm trying to figure out how exactly you say this idea in explain this in English. He is not part of the family, and he's not part of the family. He's somewhere in the middle. So, but if he is totally saimach on them, so he becomes part of the family. He doesn't have to adopt the family name. He just has to be living like a family member. Why do we have this stipulation? Which part of the chiyuv would he be yaitza? That his bias has an echanukah. According to this opinion, he doesn't have to be shtat priti. Why? Because his wife was lighting for him. Well, we see we have a problem with the brachas, but theoretically, you could be yaitza like that. Obviously, he has to know that. Etc. Okay. And he has to light it up. Why does it get puta for him? He doesn't pay for half. He gives him a piece of the shemen. To add a little bit more, so it should be nicker. You don't need the money. The Havi can be shot to Priti. Mikol Mokom, in Yeshlach Zenoy Ner, Yeser Tov, Lahadlik La'atzma. Why? Because there are those who say that the minig is to be a Mahadrim and a Mahadrin, so you could light it, you know it's not the Iker Mitzvah, and you yaitza with your wife. But here's the concept. Okay. Okay, we'll just see which one of these what I wanted to say. Okay. See, you have people, this was very common, this was discussed in Hilchos Adlakas Ner Shabbos also. People went to the fair and two balabatim together rented a room. It's cheaper. They took a suite instead of this way they spend less money and they get more, and they share it with their friend. Okay, so who's the balabayas? Both of them. Or none of them. All right. I have given God of Hashem Eishel Avram. Shnei balabatim adorim b'cheder echad vein tzarchim kolechol oichel mishalo. They both go to the hotel and they pay their own food. In other words, they have nothing to do with each other financially, except for that they rent the room together. It's not clear that they can do shituf. Why? Because shituf is if you have a primary resident. Here, we don't know we have the Evsher, the Tzarkal Echad Medina Lahalik Mishaloi. Because there is no primary resident. For Reach, Evsher Kelo, Ad Kan L'Shoyim. The boys of Heavy, they Chokim Azeb, or the Bush of Pichodish, Ryan Shom, Ryan over the Rechulu, the Tzark Lahalik. On the Mediri Ashibul Leket, the Shem Rabbi Sein, the Mistil Masha, the Kiwan Shem Bayis Echad, Dai B'Shitu. What are we talking about? Now, I'd like to share with you the following halacha. We have two people that live in an apartment building. And both of them, their minig is to light, or the halacha, they light outside the door. Where do you light?
One inside next to the door.
Okay, fine. But there are many people that light
My kids like next to the door.
downstairs. Where?
Out downstairs, outside the
Outside.
front door, outside the front door.
On the Chish.
They've worked 3 levels down, they're right at that door.
All right, we'll discuss that some other time. But there are many people that light upstairs, they're like, I like, so let's go by my house on Shabbos Hanukkah, you'll see, I like, on Rehov Achish, on the street. So let's say we have 3 people that want to light over there. Can we be mishtatif and light together? Why not?
They share the same house.
Oh, so now I'm going to tell you there are synonym antonyms.
Also, how if there's one menorah who knows who lit it.
Okay, all right. So first I'm going to share with you a tour, which is not well known. The tour says, if you have such a situation like that, l'chatchila, you're supposed to all chip in together. But this shituf has nothing to do with the shituf of Achsanoi. Here we have 2 people that are chipping in together to light one menorah. 2 separate chiyuvim. And just like I could light mine with a shliach, so we could double up. We could use 1 menorah for 2 people. So you're being my shliach, and we're lighting that menorah.
The shliach, how's the shliach?
The mishalech.
No, the shliach is yotze the mishalech. How the shliach?
Because we could just like if you have 2 separate menorahs, I can have a shliach light my menorah for me.
You, yeah.
Right. So we could also light 1 menorah together, but that's not
What
the
happened?
shutfis. That what?
What happened to Nehushua Bayside?
What happened? He's doing it. He's doing it for me.
What about itself?
You can do it on the same. You can do the same. You can do it on the same menorah. There's no problem with doing that. That says that before in the Torah. In this halacha, there's absolutely no problem with that. But this shutfis that we're talking about has nothing to do with the shutfis of Achsanoi. The shutfis of Achsanoi is a quasi chiyuv that we hook you up with the proper chiyuv. There's another shutfis. You have 2 full-blown chiyuvim that are doing something together.
That has to be split 50-50?
I don't think it has to be split 50-50 because the financial aspect is really immaterial. You could just be mocking him, money is not the issue, right? At least in this situation. But it's a good question. But just making clear the subject that we're talking about is a different shutfis. So when the Biur Halacha says that could be both of them have to light, that shutfis, why do they have to both have to light? Because they each call the balabais. So they're doing it with shutfis, but this shutfis is not the shutfis that we're speaking about the rest of the shiur. This is 2 people are obligated, so do it together. But it works because there's such a concept, just like the concept of Achsanoi, but the word shutfis is referring to a different mechanism in halacha. This mechanism is a mechanism of regular shutfis because each one's mechoyev. Right? That's saying they should both light. Why? Because they're both mechoyev, they can do it together. That's different than Achsanoi, which has some. He's homeless to a certain extent, and he's hooking himself up with the balabas. Okay, we'll stop over here. What time is it?
Should a person be magnet to people just to give them the added benefit of having an outside lighting?
Again, in what?
Can a person help his neighbors by being magnet, even without them knowing, just being magnet to them and they're mishtatif in the outside lighting if they don't do it?
Possibly. I have to think about that, but very, very possible you can do that. Okay. That's a question of doing a mitzvah for somebody. It's a nachle the Inish.